another special edition of the Cosmic History Codes with myself, David, and my wonderful co-host, Leslie Shankman. How are you doing today, Leslie?
I'm here.
Yes. Well, some of us is here, maybe some of us is somewhere else, and maybe a conversation for another day. But today we're continuing in our 13 moon journey, the legend of Turtle Island. And myself and Leslie, in the first two episodes, have been exploring the correlation between the tones of the 1320 dream spell calendar, the so-called Mayan calendar, and also the 13 stellar nations families to see whether there was a correlation between the energetic qualities of the tones and the energetic qualities of the stellar nations families. And lo and behold, there's lots of correlations, and this is all part of a bigger journey that we've also been exploring with this 13 moons, which is this idea of our inner own Knights of the Round Table. 12 plus the 1 equals the magical 13, which in some ways is the quantum field, our hollow mind perceiver, the quantum space. But it's kind of integrating these 12 aspects of us that are essential, each one representing some part of our extraterrestrial DNA, but also representing a quality or virtue that we need to have to lift our consciousness to the correct level. As we've been finding out, the boss, Archangel Michael, is really the instigator of this plan, and perhaps working with Archangel Metatron, who's perhaps working for the creator. So that's a little bit of the backstory that we're coming into right today, Leslie, where you're going to be sharing another one of your presentations to give us an overview of how you perceive the electric tone, which we normally consider to be about service, is related to the angels.
Right. Yeah. So should I pull up the slideshow and we'll just jump
Yeah,
in?
let's get into it.
Okay.
And of course, we just come off the back of Archangel Michael or Michael's feast day, Michaelmas, which was on the 29th of September, which a lot of us were engaged in a beautiful healing process. So being in service with the energy of Michael, who, if anyone's read Rudolf Steiner's books, of course, says is the guardian of humans in this period. So all very interesting stuff. So we're
Yeah.
going to start today, Leslie.
Actually, I say that too. About 10 slides in.
Okay. We're on the same page. Good.
Okay. Um, so here we are. We're in the electric moon of service. You know, these are the 28-day moons, and it's a wonderful way to follow the wave spell or the tones, because it's true when you have 28 days, you can really start to feel into what that tone means. So electric moon is going from September 20th to October 17th. We're recording this on October 1st. So how do we get here? I mean, this is the wave spells, the primary template for our evolutionary advancement. And this is the 13 steps. So we took the magnetic gate, we correlated that with the unicorns. Unicorns are about dreaming and creation, and the magnetic tone is about defining the purpose and our connection to oneness. Then we went to the lunar moon, which we finished before. That was challenging, before September 20th or by September 20th. And that's the tone there is challenge, or identifying the challenge, because what it really drops us into, once we've set our purpose, well, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with polarity to make this challenge come about. We're in these opposites, and we have to find balance and stability. So when we get through those through tones, we're pulled up to a third point that's created from an integration of the polarity, and it's an electric tone, it's called. And here we really become the conduit for the creative dream from the divine source. And we want to be in service to the divine idea at this point. This is what the energy is calling us into with the electric tone.
So in many ways, Leslie, the lunar tone, which is really about polarity in one ways, if we can harmonize the polarity, it creates the charge. And then with the electric tone,
Right.
the charge becomes electrified, which then gives more energy to the process.
Right. And I mean, I can't do justice to your navigation guide to quantum consciousness, because your conversation on the electric tone was an hour and a half, and it was very good. But yes, you've got something running through, some kind of energy charge that's come from all this that allows us to be agents of the divine, really. I mean, that's kind of how I'm feeling it. But let's go into the angels, because I very specifically felt that the angel energetic and sense of what the mission is in the cosmology of the stellar nations for this soul family is they're running on the electric tone. Okay. So the angels, if we take the cosmic language, I probably won't say it right, or the stellar language, Arbe Noah Langelos, and this is the stellar family and these are a part of us. And of course, there's angels independent of us, but we have angelic components. So they're the guardians, the keepers, messengers, ambassadors of the dream of creation. Because an angel's purpose and full devotion is to be of service to the dreams of the divine mind. And that's exactly what this moon is about. That electric tone is pulling us into a sense of service, right? Because we've integrated the polarities and we have an intention, and it's now like, okay, what are we going to do about that? Do you think that's really why the tone of service comes up? Am I getting that right?
I would say so. I mean, I've been thinking about this quite a bit since we floated the idea a few moons ago to see whether there was a fit. And we talk about guardian angels, and really, what is a guardian angel? It's in service to supposedly us humans to help guide us and be our guardians. And so I think that, if we think about Michael, his service is to humans for this 200-year period.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But really, my question was, why do you think they call this electric tone service? Is
Uh,
that
So the way, yeah, it's a good question actually. So it's probably the one tone in the whole wave spell that I've given the most amount of thought to, because when we come to the self-existing moon, which is creating form and structure, it then progresses and it seems very obvious. So I'm like, why do we go through an electrification process, which we deem to be service, before we build our structure? And I would suggest that it's the service that brings up the compassion and the heart energy, which we then put into the structure on day 4, so that we can radiate on day 5 or moon 5 from the center, which I always call our sacred center, like in the middle of a ceremonial circle. So that's how I understand it, Leslie.
okay? So the way I started understanding it, it's like, okay, kind of getting infused with a vertical feeling or relationship to the divine, and realizing that the juice that runs through what we are, what all of creation is the divine, and it's got an electric tone in the sense that electricity can run through all kinds of things and make them operate. So that's kind of how I felt it, but I was curious to know how you felt it.
I like that too. Yeah.
Okay, so the thing with angels, because the source itself is unmoving, it can only dream, the divine mind. The angels basically serve the creator by being the arms, the hands, legs, feet, eyes, words, messages, wings. They're the embraces of the creator, and their assignment is, and their destiny is to bring divine ideas to life. So you've got the divine mind just releasing huge cosmic eggs of ideas. And so the angels then bring those ideas to life and they shepherd that creation. And then they're keepers of the heavenly order, because the divine mind works with this great heavenly order. So it is, again, as I said, they're the guardians, keepers, ambassadors, and they protect life in all the imagined worlds. So I'm going to say, we're not going to get into all this. I just want to give a little overview that in the Stellar Nations cosmology, there's at least 25 identified stars where there's some kind of, their nodes of consciousness or stellar worlds where there's an angelic touch, if not really a huge angelic presence that's kind of guiding things. So what I'm going to do is, in this presentation, we're just going to really talk about those few stellar worlds where the angelic presence is there guiding us and our galaxy. Now, some of these other, it's when the angel gets into the creator lower, the more dense created world to watch over, so, you're a little less close to the divine mind, subject to pain patterns. Things happen. Shadow, lust for power. We have the shadow angels can perhaps not come through on their duty, or question, did they do all they could do? I mean, it's kind of hard. You have to stand by. You really can't interfere with free will, but you're trying to guide. So there's all kinds of shadow patterns. Even
That's an
our
interesting
sun.
point, Leslie. If we think about the angelic fall, depending on which way you look at it, the fall was being in service, because without the fall, there would be no duality. So we wouldn't get
Well,
to
there you
experience
go.
this
I know.
creator sin.
That's like the age-old question. Like, was there really like this big lust for power, or was the angel being really good and uh, enacting God's divine idea? And I think it was actually more that.
I always like
Um,
the story around Lucifer, that he was God's right-hand man and was asked to become what people think of him, because he was the best guy for the job, and that's why he was selected. So he was the best guy to be the worst guy. So that we can
yeah,
through all of this. I mean, the
yeah,
paradoxes are unending, and I think as long as you can hold those paradoxes, you start to get a better idea of what duality is and why it's here, why it was created, and how we came into this experience stroke experiment to learn all of this stuff.
exactly. And so I'm only going to focus on some of these, but I do want to point out that our very own sun in the sky is an angel, an angel being, and did rebel. It was the eighth star in the Pleiadian system, little brother to the sisters, which kind of has a lot to do with our solar system and what's going on. And we've said that in other times, so we won't get into that. But
How many angel stars are there, Leslie? Is it about 25, something like that?
25 are identified. Yeah.
25.
Yeah. I mean, and there may be more. I'm just talking
Yeah.
about this cosmology, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so the first one I want to talk about is Spica, and Spica is on it's in the Virgo constellation, and it's kind of on the shaft of wheat in that constellation.
This is
And
incredibly timely with the whole Atlas 3i thing,
I
which is going
know,
very close to Speaker.
yeah, I think Bella told me. Actually, the interesting thing is, I think she told me it comes closest to Spica around the 14th, which is of October, which is when we're looking at the 14th
Convergence.
convergence of timelines. So is that, if that's to be true, keep that in the back of your mind as I tell you about Spica.
Hey,
Um,
just I want to give a quick shout out here for our audience. We recommend checking out the Galactic Spin podcast with our brothers Ruben and Makua that we interviewed for the Timeline to Convergence about more details on what the convergence is from a timeline perspective. And they had a wonderful interview with the physicist Dan Winter, who explains it from a quantum physics point of view. I definitely recommend watching that. So I'll put the link in that in the show notes. But sorry, Leslie, I just wanted to put that out because I
no,
really,
no, I think that's good. Well, now
yeah,
we're all really, it's very important that we bring our consciousness into this, especially the power of our creative imagination, and know that we are part of all this and take our
yeah,
responsibility. That came, you know, you brought that out with Zach too. He brought that.
yeah.
So Vega is an eighth dimensional star. It is the realm of constant non-polarized light. There's not, most stars are not, they have some polarity going on, and there's some levels of learning. You've only got Alcyon, the great central sun, and Spica being non-polarized light. And it's a place that guards creation, absolutely infused with love. It's the cradle of the angel nation. It's the mirror of the divine mind. It's known as the heart of the angel. There's just legions of angels of all kinds of hierarchies rhapsodizing there, because the great cosmic aids kind of open in Spica, which are the manifested ideas of the creation that just sort of come into being. And the angels are sort of born along with the ideas, because the angels that's going to shepherd one idea or another come into being right with that divine idea. And the angels of Spica are so deeply devoted. Um, they see their angelic destiny as being part of the genius of divine consciousness. So there's a very, very high, amazing closeness to the divine here, and love of the perfection of the divine plan. If you have Spica in your Antares code, very often you can be someone who helps people find their faith, because you just have such a sense of the divine. And you can impart that in a way, you know, that there's always a bigger plan. And when something yucky's going on, it's like, wait, it's part of something bigger.
So just on that note, I'm just checking my different charts here. So for those of you following the two different astrology tracks, as Leslie said, Speaker in Western astrology is at 23 degrees of Libra, mass or minus a little bit. But in 13 signs sidereal, which we're also following these days, Speaker sits at 31 degrees of Virgo. So it's very much in the picture for the whole Atlas flyby. So just to give
Yeah,
some
yeah.
stuff, you
Oh,
can check to
yeah,
see whether Speaker's getting activated by any other planets that you might have close by, or yeah, any other objects, we should say.
yeah. Good. All right, well, then the next point of angelic consciousness I want to bring up is Antares, which is right in the heart of the Scorpion constellation. And Antares, well, Spica's eighth dimensional, it's light. Antares is seventh dimensional. It's like the light is stepped down into sound frequency. So if Spica is thought of as the heart of the angel, Antares is thought of as the eye of the angel, because with those sound frequencies, it's basically, you could call these angelic scribes almost. They're taking all those frequencies, and that's where the Akashic records of the Milky Way galaxy are held in sound frequencies. And that's in fact where, when Ben and Aniko were approached by the stellar delegation in 2005 and asked to attune to all this, because they were told that we really had to move from a planetary to a stellar consciousness, and this was part of the grounding of it. Their attunement involved the expanding their consciousness to Antares, and all their trips, the different stellar pathways that we have in the stellar nations for the 13 families, are really just like they were taken through the hallways, the catalogs of the Akashic records there to be shown what the cosmic history was. And, the cosmic history shows us really, especially in the Milky Way galaxy, the big karmic patterns that we're still embroiled with and that we're working with. So I wanted to tell you that, I'm next now going to go to Canopus, and this is on the Carina constellation. I don't know if it's a little bit hazy, but this is actually a big boat. And the whole idea here is, when the angel comes out to serve creation, we'll stop first at Canopus. It's like you're going out in the boat, in the ark, to serve creation. And on Canopus, you get your mission flame. And it's very much about your original divine purpose as an angel. Now, if you have it on your Antares code now, it doesn't mean you're a young soul. It actually means you're just, in this lifetime, your blueprint is that you really wanted to bring back that original mission, and you really want to infuse it in this incarnation. You want it to be a part of this incarnation. And we will bring this slide up again, because we're going to talk about Al-Sohal, Avoir, and Mia Placidus, which were just stars that were revealed in 2020. And we'll get to that later. And what does that mean? But it's interesting that they were revealed in 2020, and they're part of this angel's arc, kind of how the angel moves and serves in creation out of this point.
So I find that, sorry, I just want to just put a thought in there. I find that fascinating that Speaker, which is going to have this flyby very, very soon, is the realm of non-polarized light. And that's really a lot of what we just went through the last moon, is seeing polarization, division coming up. And probably more than anything, this realm has been under the influence of polarization and division for as long as we can remember. So perhaps we're going to get a blessing of non-polarized light coming to the planet.
Well,
that could be
that's what
beautiful.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, me too. For sure.
And if we can travel on Atlas with our consciousness, let's know we're coming near Spica and what it is, and really let ourselves take that in.
That's a cool thought. Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, it is. So when we get to Canopus, which I told you is on the arc there, it's a seventh dimensional star. And I basically told you this already. It's where the angels set out on their mission to complete their destiny for service as devoted messengers of the angelic mission. And it's carrying that angelic flame, the celestial message that they have from the divine mind, and how they're going to go out and serve creation. I mean, many kinds of angels. They serve creation. I mean, every aspect of creation has like an angel. I almost think of an angel like a deva, something that holds the form for something, so that it, or the blueprint for it. And I want to tell you about the Orion system. I'm going to just paraphrase this, but this is something out of Stellar Destinies. So the Orion system is a center of cosmic force. It's an operational hub of our galaxy, as the policies and regulations that order life in star systems and solar systems and planets are actually formulated here. There's the rules for coexistence, the motives for development, the principles of living in harmony with the divine plan, and the highest celestial realities all radiate from Orion's force field. We'll see a little bit more about that in a minute. But basically, it's more than even a star. The way the stars to work together is in a systemic way. So the most important task and mission of the cosmic world hidden in Orion is protecting, maintaining, revealing the historical and developmental codes of the Milky Way galaxy that radiate toward the lower worlds. So the codes of the celestial order actually help the lower worlds survive. They give them their form, shape, their morphogenic fields. Interestingly, we can say, if we make an analogy, that Orion as a constellation is akin to Saturn. Saturn presents us with our compulsory fate tasks that we can't miss if we're going to develop. The Orion stellar worlds play a really similar role on the galactic level. They're just supervising a much broader spectrum. And here's where the control that comes from the celestial and angelic hierarchies guide how certain stellar and planetary realities relate to one another. So they also maintain the ascending levels of guidance that a star or planet is under. Okay, so let's speak a little bit about the stars, those stars specifically within this, system. Betelgeuse is the library where the library of divine laws are kept. And there's the members of the angelic hierarchy on Betelgeuse surround and supervise the divine laws there that are written and stored in codes of light. And they're seeing that the order and cosmic level of karmic rules is carried out. So literally we've got divine laws as codes or radiations, like, meaning frequencies that hold things in place, are radiating out from Betelgeuse into the galaxy. And we're going to get a little bit more fine tuning on that in a minute, but let's look at all the stars. You've got Bellatrix on the other shoulder, and that's where the heavenly court of justice is located. And we're all familiar with the idea of the scales of Anubis, which weigh the heart at the gate of death, and the heart has to be as light as a feather to be worthy of being ascended over the darkness of the astral plane and to be admitted into worlds of greater purity. And so that's what the angelic quality is here. It's a very high octave of original purity. So this is not a judgment kind of thing. This is purely like physics. When you're getting your heart weighed, have you cleared enough shadow to be able to go into the frequencies that are more pure? Because if you haven't, there's no point. There's no resonance. You can't do it. So it's not like, oh, you're punished, this is terrible. It's just like a feedback mechanism. And it also kind of keeps things clean up there. Although we're not going to get into it now, but Orion was breached. And, if we've heard of the Orion Wars, and they were breached through Anubis, kind of the purity of Anubis was taken advantage of. They gave a chance to some fallen ones who were very duplicitous. But anyway.
You know what, Leslie, you just said something there which I think is really important, which often gets lost in religious speak, that the Day of Atonement or Day of Judgment and all of these things, it all sounds very much like if you've not done the right thing, you're going to go somewhere terrible. But really and truly, if we just bring it down to frequencies without all of the sort of rhetoric that perhaps is designed to scare us, what we're really just looking at is how to balance and harmonize discordant frequencies with coherent frequencies within our body so that it all becomes coherent. And what could be a judgment in the religious context is really just something that's unresolved as a frequency which needs to be alchemized. And once that's done, then that it's done. And so if we keep working on our shadow with this idea rather as some ominous sort of activity, really what we're just doing is becoming musicians and making sure that we get to play a harmonious scale rather than one that sounds like having a guitar dragged over a gravel path or something.
Right. No, that's a beautiful point. And really we have to realize, these are here to help us. It's not onerous, like, oh, you're bad. It's like, no, let us give you a mirror. Oh, I haven't quite done that yet.
Right.
It's a feedback mechanism.
Yeah.
So now if we come to Mesa, the crown of Orion, there's ambassadors of the angelic heavenly hierarchies. There's three orders. And the first order of angels, and it consists, each order consists of three different kinds of tribes or designation of angels.
Mhm.
So altogether there's 9 different I guess you'd call, I don't know what to call it. I don't know if I call it.
Categories, administrations, I don't know.
Yeah, right. But anyway, in the first order with the seraphim, cherubs, thrones, that what their duty is to hold a boundless sense of mission and the commitment to the balance of the universe and the embodiment of divine will. Oops, sorry. Then the second order symbolizes the power of God and governs the worlds with commanding order and discipline. This is the dominions, the virtues, the powers. Now, the third order, I think this is the one we know probably best, or more closely, is to protect, guard, support, assist, care for the path of the cosmic human in their redemption story. These are the angelic messengers that intercede for us as humans and who also take our prayers or our requests or our dreams up to the Creator. And these are the principalities, the archangels, and the angels.
Is the principality in the hierarchical sense the highest order of the angels or the archangels?
I don't, all I know from, and I'm not an expert on this, so I'm not going to claim it, but just from reading the documents that bio-decoding put out, I say I spelled that wrong, but they're just different. I think they're different ways of how they serve or hold creation. You know, they're like the divine mind has a dream with all these ideas, and the angels are literally born with it as the holders and manifestors of those ideas. It's a quite good question for another time. I can't answer
Yeah.
that.
I mean, cherubims are often considered that they turn up when there is a lot of heart energy and a lot of love energy. They will gather around beings. I've seen this in medicine journeys sometimes when somebody's had a full heart opening, you can perceive the cherubims gather around them because they love that frequency, which of course is very different to what an archangel is here to do. You know, in case of Michael guiding us through this process. So yeah, we can see the differences, right?
Yeah, I think that's what we just want to take from this. I'm not getting very specific, but the fact that, you know, creation has an order, the divine mind has an order, and the angel itself is in service to that, which is why I equated it with the electric tone. Um, so what we've got here is there's almost kind of like a galactic infinity symbols that flows between Betelgeuse and Bellatrix. And in the focal point is like a higher Christ-like heart chakra of Orion stars that awakens an angelic governance that can be said to be measuring the purity of our soul, our consciousness in our heart. So we talked about this with the scales of Anubis. I just wanted to bring in that these are very closely interrelated. I mean, they're two separate stars, but they really play in an energy flow. And they're saying when you stop at the scales of Anubis, I mean, as we just kind of said, you can't do anything but honestly be yourself. I am who I am at that particular moment. You're not going to fool anything because it's a frequency. You know, you can't put on a mask and say, "Oh, don't I look nice? Like, let me go through."
Yeah, for anyone out there thinking they can sort of go around the houses and dodge the weighing of the scales, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it's a process, and the quicker you
Well, we all seem to
understand.
try.
Yeah, for sure. I've had, I think, a few attempts at dodging that exam, but in the end, that's why I like the idea of the frequencies because it kind of takes the sting out of the tail, makes it less about good and bad, and more just about understanding how to harmonize
Right. And
aspects of
that's why I
yourself.
like the ideas of the tones,
Yeah.
even these 13 tones, because it's like, okay, there's different ways that these frequencies express, and it all comes back to harmony and balance. But we have to really start feeling them inside to know that we can listen for them and see where we feel the disharmony and be a little more conscious about it's funny. It's not a head thing when I say conscious. I think it's our body uh, understanding really, you know, feeling what feels right, what doesn't feel right. And but then being able to discern into it as you know these things. I mean, what I think is the higher information, once we know it, just kind of drops in, you know. Well, it drops in because it's actually in us. So it's coming up. I don't know where it's coming from.
Well, again, this comes back to the frequencies. If you've managed to harmonize the frequencies in your field, in your awareness, then it's easier for those higher frequency downloads to drop in. If they're dropping into a big soupy mess, it's going to.
Well, it's like not having a language in common, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's an incompatibility. I think that's the way to put it.
Right. Well, I've always used ever since I met the Stellar Nations and really started getting it, it creates a coherency because you have a way to sort of check out the lines of energy or the frequency. And when you know, and it gives you the language. So, like that aspect of yourself that's a little bit at a different vantage point can go, yeah, and drop it in. They can drop in like a little scene from a stellar story, and you can get the understanding. Oh yeah, oh God, that's it, and the whole patterns emerge. Then
Mhm.
So I really wanted to share this because I think this is so cool. This is kind of a little bit more specifically how the Orion galaxy works, and even really the divine mind. So this is in our galaxy anyway. This is from Stellar Destinies. So when the creative source starts to send a message to a certain point in the universe, the central light also glows in the rotunda of Betelgeuse, because we've just had a couple pages before, it's explained the whole inner workings of Betelgeuse, which is all these crystals and central columns of light and crystals that are holding the information. So anyway, this central light glows when this message comes in from the divine mind, right? And it emanates the energies of that revelation into related holographic fields that are located in the living crystals in Betelgeuse. So as the code takes in the ray of divine will, because it's a divine mind, appropriate rearrangement begins within it, and then the celestial message emanates across the silvery bridge of the Milky Way and travels to the intended cosmic object. And the selected world is woven within a complicated network of innumerable etheric orbits. And in those orbits, there's a special receiving station that perceives the incoming message. So it's effectively as if the whole galaxy is one single live entity, a huge organic light body that's woven from the cells of innumerable stars and celestial bodies. And this is all moved by an immense, extremely complex nervous system signaled from the radiating source, the divine mind, coming from the galactic center itself, which is the cradle of the birth of consciousness, at least in our galaxy here. And all the thoughts and ideas, intentions, motivations are born here in the galactic center, divine mind. They start their journey from here, and then they give their instruction to the brain part of central importance in Orion. So it's like Orion is kind of the brain part, and it's where the galactic memory lives and where inner order and balance are provided. And the angels are behind all this. This is why I want to share it. So it's like instruction is given to the stellar whirl of Orion, where a downward flowing pyramidal motor system reaches the proper live star organs, and then through the spine of the Milky Way it goes. And in this etheric field, there's an inner sensing receptor that can take in and interpret the cosmic impulse. And this is how live multidimensional coding works. So I just wanted to share that. I like that idea.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, I think it helps us step back and go, and even if we want to start, bringing our consciousness to 3i Atlas, it says, look, yeah, you're part of this. This is, we have our nervous system, but it's reflected out there. And I always said, you have your stellar worlds where your soul aspects live. The ones you brought down for this incarnation are in your Antares code. They're like the cells of your light body. So
That's a really important point, Leslie. And again, as we've been discussing within our tribe recently, if we are universal beings, there is an aspect of us that exists everywhere. And all we have to do is really shift the dial of the frequency to be able to attenuate ourselves to those frequencies wherever they are. So maybe on Atlas, or in this case on Betelgeuse. And so if we think about things like that, that means that all of that multi-dimensional coding that seems or feels like it's happening somewhere on a star way over there isn't really, it's happening within us.
exactly. Yeah. And
That's mind-blowing, really, if you think about it. We are
Yeah, yeah.
multi-dimensional coded at all times. I love that.
I just had a thought on that I completely lost. Maybe it'll come back. Um, okay. I want to also talk about the fact that we're constantly, talking about these radiations of the divine mind coming out. Well, what Bay and Attico were shown ever since uh, they 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 brought through the 13 stellar nations. They did a lot of work with anchoring it in the planetary grid, and that was all kind of done by 2007. They have a large group that works with the messages all the time, bringing them in because the messages are constant, right? They're coming. We just heard the mechanism, right? So they were shown and they've worked with every year since 2008. Something has come forward from the divine mind as a primary message for the collective consciousness. What are we ready for in our development now? And 2023 was the year that the angels from Betelgeuse came in. And the purpose was to reinfuse the frequency of divine law within our collective consciousness, within the earth grid. Now, you can imagine these are not like soft little coddling angels. This is divine law, okay? So I think we can start to think about, we know how everything's kind of just rocking and rolling. Well, we've still got, this was introduced in 2003, and it's not going away. The infusion of divine law is going to be a frequency shaking what isn't in line with divine law. So as we've watched things just start to unravel, you can say part of it is this is because these things are incoming. There's a greater flow at work. Oh, that's what I was going to say. When you said you could just drop in anywhere, kind of, when you start thinking about, that's exactly what the Mayans say on the Star Maya. And the Star Maya is about life is eternal, and the infinity symbol is really it's the symbolization of that. Life is eternal. Even if a world blows up, there's always some little piece that is part of what has happened and is part of, the beingness of it all. So the idea that they bring across the Mayan consciousness from that star is you can literally step in anywhere. It's not like there's an entry point and you're going to go linear. You step in and then you can go in because it's all part of the whole. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay, so speaking of energy patterns coming in for different years, 2020 we had the year of the whale and the redemption of the fallen angel. So the whale is part of the cosmology. We won't get into that, but basically it's the redemption of the fallen angel. And we had 3 stars revealed that year because that'll happen when these codes come in, the deeper stories of our cosmic history come out. And because we're like our collective consciousness is ready to see what those stellar worlds want to reveal. We didn't see Pluto until World War II. We didn't see Chiron until 77. Our consciousness wasn't ready for it yet. So I also invite you to think about this in terms of how have your years been since 2020 on a personal level? Because I've experienced it. We've talked about this. It's almost like that's when the gun went off. Some of us, and that's when we tried to be, other forces tried to squish us with the whole pandemic and all that. But for some, it was a real waking up of the fallen angel aspect of ourselves, probably. But there are 3 more stars that I will go over them because I want to really present them as what our collective consciousness now understands and wants to go for as it's reflected in these stars.
That's really
Now,
interesting, Leslie, from a few points. 2020, and maybe other people watching this may have had similar experiences, but during all of that stuff in 2020, when we were being forced to be somewhat solitary That's really when I had my most continuous communications with the angelic realms, particularly Michael, who explained a lot of what was going to happen and why it was happening in the period that's happened since, all of which has subsequently proved to be true. But he also was very, very insistent on this need to integrate and to not separate. And we can understand that in many ways, but it was done through a personal a series of reflections. And what I came to understand was I saw aspects of myself that I had tried to contain, which I didn't like. We can say rejected aspects. And so it comes back to this idea of the integration. But the point being, 2020 was when that communication started, certainly for me, very strongly. But I have a feeling it probably came to a lot of people around that period.
Well, I think we see that because that's when the breakout happened. You had to decide if you believed
Yeah.
the the narrative that was coming, or your insight said, wait a minute.
Mhm.
And then it kept, so I think there's no accident there. But now I'm going to come back to the angel's bark again that I talked about, where we set out on Canopus with our original mission codes, because we've got also Hall, which is part of the sail of the bark, Avoir, and Mia Placidus. These were the three stellar worlds that were revealed, and they're like a pathway. So as I talk about them, realize this is what the collective was now ready to uh, assume could be done. It's our collective. It's enough of our collective dream. Like, I don't know how many of us feel it or actualize it, but I think more and more of us do. And all these stellar worlds now press on us in a bigger way, because, and let's particularly Al-Sahal. Let's get into that. Um, I'm just I'm just gonna I put it all here in case someone wants to read it or screenshot it, but I'll kind of just paraphrase. We've got Al-Sahal as a special sanctuary of memory. So it connects us with the memory of our original transgression. And what we mean by that is, well, where did we um, sort of break our energy field out of the being feeling part of the divine? How did we leave our divine fate? We all did something, but we were supposed to, really. We're on this trip to discover ourselves. The creator said to the cosmic human in the stellar nations, go and be my experiencers. I want you to go to the depth of the shadow to know the height of the light, so that eventually you can become my co-creators. I mean, it's part of our evolutionary development, but there was a point of a break. And what Al-Sohal is about, it is such an intense pressure when this comes in. It's like, imagine yourself being put in Russian nesting dolls, smaller, 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 so pressurized. And we're kind of like that now, that you just go, something in you breaks and goes, it wasn't always like this. You
Mhm.
sort of have that feeling or that memory. No, wait, there, there, there is something bigger. And it kind of brings in this memory or feeling that there was a time we were more whole, we were connected with an organic something or a divine matrix, and we lost our wings, we became fragmented. And Al-Sohal brings in that memory. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it brings in a time you stabbed someone and lost your wings. I don't think it's that specific. I think it's sort of the energy pattern of realizing, once I was whole or connected, and then I wasn't. I think it's that whole sense of bringing that energy pattern back.
Mhm.
It's when we stepped away and lost the sensation of being close to the creator, it all floods in. And we sort of remember, oh my God, when I did that, I lost my wings, so to speak, that part of me which expands my being and consciousness. And, they're like golden fibers of light that enable us to travel the worlds across the dimensions as divine messengers. And once upon a time, I could do that. So this particular star offers the opportunity to uncover sort of that feeling and the details of the memory. And what happens then is it introduces a moment of healing that can become an uplifting experience, which brings us to the next star.
You know what,
So
Leslie?
just
That,
keep
that
in mind, if I say this is what we started to realize as
Mhm.
a collective. Like, wait a minute, okay? but only in 2020.
It makes me think of the story of Cain and Abel, the original sin, the taking of the brother's life. That, you know, that would be a classic kind of fall moment, and it's of course very much recorded in our history. So I kind of think it's one of those moments where after the fall, then there's a not exactly a crime because it's we're still in the experimental duality simulation, but a separation or a disconnection from
Right,
the divine might as the fall continued, because you know there are stages to the fall as well,
right, right,
and what
right,
happens across many eons can also happen in one lifetime.
right,
You know, it's
right.
fractal.
Yeah, I think it's, you say maybe it's the time where you definitively picked a side, so to speak.
Right.
You wanted to go after whatever it was that was enticing in your free will or doing or whatever. And something happened. You did something malevolent, somebody did something to you, but you felt the break with the creator's mind. You didn't feel that trust anymore. And it really, that one moment has a big effect on your journey of consciousness. It's like a singular point, but it's present unnoticeably with consequences as you go forward. In your emotions and physical symptoms, in your body, your shoulders can ache, possibly at your solar plexus, where kind of the umbilical cord to the divine was. Um, you may have that subconscious awareness that brings that depressed feeling, shame, guilt. You don't really know why. So this is also Hall is great because it's saying, "Oh my God, we're going to get pressurized into remembering." So it's although it's not easy, I'd say we're all kind of going through that. Um, okay, so the next thing, also Hall, you sort of get it. Like, oh my God, once upon a time I was whole. Now then, this whole subtle light starts to enter your heart and it begins to heal your cosmic heart. It's like we have a human heart and a cosmic heart. That's what's separated. And it that cosmic heart or our human heart has lost the boundless love of the creator. What happens now is this whole turquoise field of light and angelic messengers and their invisible light bodies surround us in a majestic circle of light, and they touch our heart and they touch us with their soft hands of light. And what happens is this is we have to surrender here. We have to allow a sudden, pure, deep-hearted prayer to burst forth from the most intimate corners of our heart. We have to ask for forgiveness, and that's like complete surrender. And I think it's really cool that at least we've seen that in the collective consciousness. You know, we're going to understand and remember the mistakes, but we're going to turn towards the heavenly realms with a totally bared soul. We're not going to try to defend or make anything up. We're going to have humbleness in our heart. We're going to ask for forgiveness from creative source. We're going to pour out our burdens and say, please transform them. So what happens is this really sincere, undefended prayer calls the radiant heavenly formation of the Southern Cross. That's where the Temple of Christ lives in the Crew constellation. And it projects towards us like a beautiful, pure light and comes right into our heart and soul. And there's the four rays of that constellation. They're living rays that are the principles of creation, the divine principles of creation. We've got divine love, divine law, divine mercy, divine will. And they just blend into a single beam of light and cast into our soul and absolve us. They let us unload the burden of the transgression and let it go finally. And when that happens, a very magical thing happens. The greatest treasure of Wa is to bringing this moment of mercy, which we can get upon surrender, and we get our wings back, so to speak. What that means is we can access the ethereal bridge, which connects us to source. We can speak with the creator again. We can hear the creator again. We can feel that really pure reality and that powerful heavenly shining of the creator, where we come from and which we're part of and where we can return. So here we start to really clearly sense the light constellation of the Angel's Arc, which is a heavenly vehicle, and it transports us into higher interdimensional gates, closer to the source of creation. This is where our consciousness expands, and we can really, truly start to feel and know infinite vastness, strength, and the power of our multidimensional being.
Where,
So
where,
there's,
where is Avoir in the Western astrology, Leslie?
it's in, I'm bad. I took it off because I decided it was too confusing. I'm trying to remember now. I'm pretty sure it's in Virgo. Um,
Mm.
I can look it up in a minute.
The reason I'm asking is you
Mm.
brought up the four pillars of the Christed temple, the Southern Cross, and interestingly, between the 21st of October and the 28th of October, Atlas is going to be passing over those points too.
Oh, I noticed that because if I bring back the arc, I noticed right up to the left-hand corner, I saw some of the crew constellation stars.
Yeah,
So
I
they're
think
right
it will
there.
hit the first two that are normally in Western astrology around 11 degrees of Scorpio. I think it's about the 20th, 21st, and then it hits the two other points in the crew around about 5 degrees of Scorpio, literally on the 28th, 29th of
Yeah,
October.
see, here's got crew. So maybe it's in Scorpio.
It's down here.
Yeah, I'm sorry I took that off. I was feeling like duplicitous to put in the tropical, and it was just keeping a
No, no, it's
constellation.
okay. I mean, we're using the 13 sign sidereal astrology now, but because the original stellar nations, for those of you who are also wondering what we're talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
it was set to Western astrology. So since we've switched systems, as me and Leslie have, we're having to do some recalculations as to where
right.
some of
But
these
I should have,
are.
yeah, I had it on the slide and I took it off. I should have left it there.
So it was just I was just curious, but mainly because of the crew constellation, the fact that Atlas
Yeah.
is going to hit it in just a couple of weeks' time.
Well, can you see it's right here?
Yeah.
And here. So, okay. Now we've had Elso Hall, Avoir, Mia Placidus.
Mm.
Um, so Mia Placidus is this is so cool. It's like we regained our original destiny and we get a special sign of light for a new assignment. It's like a second seal of destiny. We have a new mission. We start to feel what it's about, and it's designating our way on our earthly life paths. It's a really meaningful holographic seal of light that comes into our aura field because it lets us feel like we're present here on earth and in the higher realms concurrently. Uh, in the Celebration Nations, they call what we would call the new earth the light sphere of Yehuna Gaia. It's the fifth dimensional expression of Gaia. So here's our original destiny path merges with our newly bestowed destiny, and it guides us to organize our days so we'll always be able to lift the everyday life of the little man, so to speak,
Mhm.
the third dimensional dynamics into the fifth dimensional vibrational level. We'll be bringing up the third dimensional level of Earth to the fifth dimensional while we're living in the third dimensional. We just know we're concurrent, but our consciousness is seated in the fifth dimensional while we're operating in the fifth. We're like a living bridge. It's a pathway. It's a healing pathway that gets planted in our soul. It leaves its memories in us to work on us. We work on it further until we complete it. I mean, it's like an ongoing thing. We have grace and mercy with us. The light sign of our new destiny is shining in the reality of our light body. It's like a heavenly star sign. We can let it transform into our light. And actually, now I remember this is in Scorpio. This is an early Scorpio in the chart.
It's one in
One,
Western, it's
two.
in 1 degree of Scorpio. This actually sounds very much like the mantra of the Skywalker in the Dream spell, bringing heaven to earth. That is the mantra of the Skywalking glyph.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, but here's the good thing. We've seen it. I mean, it's been there all the time, but
Yeah.
we didn't have the apprehensional field in our development. I mean, our Earth hasn't even, I mean, we didn't start leaving a planetary consciousness. I mean, if you look at the Mayan calendar and how the underworlds lie in, it was 1998 when the galactic underworld finally laid in and we finally got a sense of something larger. I think that's why Bayononico, that's why they were approached in 2005. That was the midpoint of the galactic underworld where what the truth of it was meant to emerge. It's almost like a seed was planted in 1998. At that midpoint, the seed germinates, starts to come into consciousness. So they were, guided to do this. Other things happened around then. The gene cleans flourished. It's like the
Hmm.
termers started coming out. So
Yeah, I'm just
I just was
calculating in the Western astrology, sorry, in the sidereal, that star's around 38 degrees of Virgo
oh, okay,
for the
all
sidereal.
right. So and that's much more than around um Atlas, right? Three Eye Atlas.
Yeah,
So
all of these, what anything that's
yeah,
what would be the early degrees, the first half of Scorpio, moving into a Libra,
yeah,
which now in sidereal is more a Virgo based. It's anyone who's got placements there, they're all going to get activated by Atlas as it passes over. So anyone with big Scorpio or Libra stelliums, I think, are likely to get some extra sprinklings of the fairy dust, as Zach called it, or I
okay.
called it, and Zach agreed.
There you go. Well, yeah. Um, it is pretty amazing though that this is happening within the electric moon of service. And I happen to correlate it with the angels, but yeah, it's coming near these nodal points of consciousness where there is a lot of angelic energy, and angelic energy is guiding the divine mind and shepherding it. So I think that's cool. And I wanted to, my concluding thought about this is the Mayan rhythms of organic time and the stellar nations cosmology show us that we're agents of a vast intelligent consciousness.
I agree.
And we need to try to remember that and really just become still in that as all the outer stuff happens. You know.
Yeah.
So lastly, I know I'm getting more familiar with your work and other work with the whole law of time and the Mayan timelines and different calendars. But I was taken by this basic concept that comes out through the law of time and maybe other things. And I think one of your guests said it. I think the woman from Australia said it. Going for the OMA, original matrix attained. Like they have it on their website, avatars of the OMA, and there's some writing about it. But I think she called it, we're people of the OMA, meaning that we're trying to live into attaining the original matrix again, meaning going back to our wholeness.
Uh-huh.
So that concludes what I have.
Wow, thank you so much, Leslie. I mean, for those who want to learn more about this, there is, of course, the Stellar Nations pathway. There are the books. You can have a reading, get your Antares code, and correlate it to your natal chart and everything else. And of course, we did the quite a long episode, I think, Leslie, in the original Stellar Nations course that is on QPW. So if people want to go and explore more about the depth of the angel constellations, it's a big nation, right? There's quite a few stars
Well,
to.
those 25 stars. Yeah, I did a more truncated one on YouTube. I'll send you that to put under. But yeah, in our course, we tried to we really went through each star,
Yeah, we went
because
through each star.
it's a world where our soul is, where things are happening. So,
Right, and I love what you just said there at the end. And anyone who's been following this channel or done anything with Leslie or myself and Bella at QPW, our major focus really has been working with plants as a bridge into the two realms of consciousness that Leslie has beautifully fused there, and which we can fit so beautifully together. I think is one of the most profound things I've done, Leslie, was doing the Stellar Nations pathway with you and Bella using the Mayan 1320 calendar. It was incredibly powerful using those 13-day containers to receive or just to remember even the codes of my own universal self. It's a long process and it brings up a lot of stuff, but it's incredibly powerful. But as we come to the end of this sort of review of the angelic energies of service, what else do you have to say, Leslie, in putting this into context with what is coming up in the next, I would say, 2 to 4 weeks as Atlas passes over a lot of these stars, as we have these golden timelines of convergences, of which we've been talking about in other videos and we were talking about beforehand? It feels like we're coming to some sort of compression point. Not one, hopefully, it's going to feel too uncomfortable, at least not for too long, but all of these things that we talk about on these videos, they are all part of us. And sometimes I think it's easy just to think of them as some sort of brain candy. It's, oh, that's an interesting
mm,
story that my soul did like a zillion years ago. But the truth is, we're still living all of these things. Time is an illusion. And what is happening now is happening across all time in the same moment. across all the timelines of Earth and maybe other timelines in other realms with other creators and who knows what else. But as we come to this sort of 14th and 15th convergence, as we have Atlas coming closest to Mars in a couple of days' time, there is a lot of energetic impetus around all of what we've shared and even bringing it into the place of the whales returning home. I love that. I love the energy of Mia Placidus. It's on my North Node, which is interesting.
I
Uh,
know.
right. Yeah.
I'm
You know
aware
my
of that.
chart probably
It's on
better
my
than I do.
Saturn. Work to do in the world.
Right. So anyone who was born in the latter half of 1976, the early half of 77, will have Mia Placidus probably around their North Node too, which is an encouraging thought, I think, for those of who did fall, myself included, a long way with the other angelic beings, is that there is redemption on the horizon. And that is the
Let me
beauty.
just say something, one thing about that quickly though.
Yeah.
If if you don't have something on your code, don't despair. It's not like these stars are, we are literally in the center
Yeah.
of a radius of a hologram, and every star is is pouring its light into us. It's just what an Antares code is like, is basically how did you design your blueprint for this life? What soul particles did you want to bring back to work with? Did you want to have Mia Placidus in there? Because I mean, it's been there the whole time. It didn't come into any kind of radiation that we could probably really feel until it got a more of a collective meaning. So all I'm wanting to say is it's great when you have things on your code. Sometimes it's very explanatory, but don't feel like, oh, gee, I didn't get Mia Placidus. I'm not going to,
Hey man, Mia Placidus is just the get out clause for all the other terrible stuff that's in the rest of my chart, which covers
Right.
all of the falls of the universe. So the point being, that it comes back to the Anubis scales, Leslie, is that this is duality. There is no up without there being a down. There is no dark without there being a light or a left and a right or a male and a female. So let's just accept that fact and say, hey, we're just
Exactly.
oscillating within those different degrees or different frequencies, we can say. And you're absolutely right. Maybe the point of having some of us having gone into stellar nations and learning about our charts and feeling the energies come through is so that we can just share how those qualities feel, so that other people can feel it within them too, without having to go through the process necessarily of learning
Well,
about.
no, they're going to have it, but just maybe it's not part of their life plan in quite the same way. Or it could come
Right.
up in a
Yeah.
solar return.
Yes,
Your solar return can be like kind of
that's
a
true. Yeah.
kaleidoscope that turns things in new perspective, brings in new stars, which are almost like can be soul walk-ins in a certain way that you get a certain new thing. Yeah.
You
Okay.
know,
I had another.
yeah, and as we come to the end, maybe the final thought just to allude to here is that, you know, this is a very, very big universe. It is constantly expanding, and we are expanding within it. And the only thing that can limit our ability to connect with that is really just us not accepting that fact. And within that are the angels and the unicorns and the winged lions that we've covered already, and the other nations, of course. But beyond those, there are even more nations. There's a lot of constellations in the sky that are not on our ecliptic. And maybe we have aspects there too, but maybe that's another adventure for after we've completed this one. So, you know, I think Leslie's point's really valid, everybody, whether you have some of these stars in your Antares chart and whether you have your chart or not. The energies are available universally, and by putting our attention there, and really what we're doing, those of us who maybe have it on our charts, is just feeling it perhaps as an imperative that's extra important for us. But all of the energies, as Leslie said, are all available in the same way that all of the planetary energies and the signs of the zodiac are also all available. But we just have some inflection points that perhaps makes it a little bit more personal, which is our uniqueness, I would dare to suggest.
Yeah. And I would take for this time, this convergence zone, I would say maybe we're going to get a little bit more of a sort of activation or realization of those three revealed stars because the pressure, the remembering, the wings, and then like, oh my God, you know, if we can kind of pop through there, I think we are going to be more fully cognizant and able to live, you know, concurrent and really seat our consciousness more in the fifth dimension. A lot of us can feel peace, you know, parts of the day that just are like that anyway. You're just kind of floating there. Nothing, you know, it doesn't always sustain, but maybe we'll get a more sustaining ability after this. But I think what we have to take from this is we can't even begin to understand, but we have to be so incredibly in awe of this vast intelligence. And let's see what happens.
Right. I
And
love
it's called faith. This is what Spica is about.
faith,
Spica
belief, trust.
is
Yeah.
all about realigning people with the understanding of fate and faith and coming back into it and being uplifted towards the divine mind. So, and that's why I would say that this electric tone of service is about exactly what can grow out of those polarities. Why do we get strung by the polarities? Why do we have a creation cycle with polarities? It's so much suffering. And yet, what do we get from that when we can come into that fine point of letting the electric current of the divine basically flow through us as agents? So anyway, let's get excited. we started
Yeah. I
we
mean,
had a
just
call before the call we were both pretty impressed. Now I'm feeling better.
yeah. Well, as a final thought, as we wrap up this wonderful transmission, again, thank you for a beautiful presentation, Leslie. I think it's very, very timely. I think that many of us have been calling on the boss man quite a bit over the last few weeks, months, and even the last 5 years. And, he's been in service to us, and somehow down here, the foot soldiers have been in service to the collective. So we are somehow all working with angelic energies, those of us
Yeah,
who are
remember
on point.
Mesa, the archangels, they are in service to the humans on our
Right.
pathway of redemption. We can give
Yeah.
them our prayers. So I mean, I think you evidence that all the time. You talk about
Yeah, I mean, not just Michael, but also Uriel and Raphael and Gabriel and many other beings too.
yeah,
We all connect to different angels. Some of us connect to the same, but they are our guardians for a reason. And I will share again the words that Michael said to me in 2020. He said, "Davyd, as long as you stand in my light, you will never have anything to fear." And that's been the truth. Since that occurrence happened, I managed to remove my fear, but I have to stick to his rules, which means that I can't deviate
mhm,
outside of his light patterns. Otherwise, if I do, there's no protection. So, just to share that. And also, as we're coming to this convergence, which many of us are feeling energetically, if you're feeling a bit physically out of shape or some trigger points, just remember to keep detoxing. Unfortunately, the world around us is a little bit toxic at the moment, and it's important just to keep releasing energetically and physically anything that might perhaps create some of that density that might tip the scales. We want to keep ourselves as light as possible, and
right.
we know that there's a lot of stuff out there that's trying to make us feel out of shape. So just take it all with a pinch of salt, come back to center, and try to remain in that center of the scales at the equilibrium point. So with that said, Leslie, if people want to have a reading from you or find out more, where can you point them to?
Well, I'll send you again my website and I'll send you the angel YouTube and you can just put that down there. Um,
Right. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. I'll also put the link to the Galactic Spin podcast with our
oh
brothers
yeah,
Davyd
I'm
and
looking
Makua.
forward
I
to that.
really, really recommend that. A little bit technical, but if you can feel the energy of what they share and what Dan Winter shares, very, very important around this convergent state. And I'll also put in the show notes for those of you who are more interested in the 13 signs Sidereal. I can put the link now to a software coming from our brother Afin
Oh, please.
Kementi with Mastering the Zodiac. Very affordable. And honestly, it's been a life changer to be able to plot my true 13 sign astrology with this software rather than doing a lot of number crunching by
Okay.
pencil and calculator. So I'll put that in there too for those who are interested. But Leslie, thank you so much, sister, as always. I love these chats. I hope our audience do. They always get many, many good comments. And I think most of all, the most important thing with all of these high powered beings is just to remember to invite them in because otherwise they won't come. And once you've done that once and you consistently feed that energy, then they're always with you, as they always are. But you have to make them into your awareness.
Right.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you. And thank
Thank
you,
you so much,
audience.
Leslie. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We'll be back very soon with another transmission here on the QPW YouTube platform. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye bye.